Kira Vance stared out the window of the transport ship and watched the medical station grow larger against the black of space. It was the biggest hospital in the known galaxy, a massive structure of silver and blue that stretched for miles in every direction. Somewhere inside that place, she hoped to find answers that could save humanity. She pressed her hand against the cold glass. Her reflection stared back at her, and she noticed the new lines around her eyes. She was only 32, but she looked 50. The fading had touched her too, just like it had touched every other human in the colonies. "Docking in 5 minutes," the ship's computer announced. Kira picked up her bag and made her way to the airlock. Her hands shook slightly. She had studied for years to get here, had competed against thousands of other scientists for this single opportunity. The Etheran rarely took students from younger species, especially not humans. But humanity was dying, and the Concordat had finally agreed to help. The airlock opened with a hiss. On the other side stood a tall, thin creature with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Its face was smooth, almost featureless except for large, dark eyes that seemed to hold the weight of ages. "Dr. Vance," it said in perfect English. "I am Physician Prime Zal Theron. Welcome to the Center of Eternal Medicine." Kira bowed slightly the way she had been taught. "Thank you for accepting me, Physician Prime." Zal Theron made a gesture with 2 of its hands that might have been a smile. "Come. We have much work to do if we are to save your species from the fate you call death." The medical station was unlike anything Kira had ever seen. The hallways curved in impossible ways, and the walls glowed with soft light that seemed to come from nowhere. Everywhere she looked, she saw beings from dozens of different species, all going about their work with calm efficiency. "How old is this station?" Kira asked as they walked. 300,000 years, Zal Theron replied, "though it has been rebuilt many times. Death is not permitted here, so we must constantly update our facilities for bodies that never stop existing." They passed through a door into a vast laboratory filled with equipment Kira couldn't begin to understand. Zal Theron led her to a workstation and began explaining the research they had done on the fading. "We have studied your condition for 3 months. The Etheran said. "Your cells are degenerating at an accelerated rate. They forget how to repair themselves. It is as if your biology is trying to die, despite all natural instincts to survive." "Can you cure it?" Kira asked. Zal Theron's eyes grew distant. "Cure death? We did that for ourselves 2 million years ago. But your species is different. Your biology resists our treatments. We do not yet understand why." Over the following weeks, Kira threw herself into the work. She studied Etheran medicine, learned about the technologies that kept them alive forever, and tried to understand why human bodies rejected these same treatments. But the more she learned, the more she noticed something strange about her teachers. They were brilliant, these immortal beings. They had knowledge that spanned millions of years. But they moved slowly, spoke slowly, and seemed to do everything as if they had forever to complete it. Because they did. One evening, after a particularly long day in the lab, Kira found Zal Theron standing alone in an observation room, staring out at the stars. "Physician Prime?" she said softly. "Are you well?" Zal Theron turned to look at her. For the first time, she saw something in those ancient eyes that looked almost human. Pain. "Dr. Vance," it said quietly, "may I ask you a question about your species?" "Of course." "What is it like to know you will die?" The question caught Kira off guard. She thought for a moment before answering. "It's frightening sometimes, but it also makes things matter more. Every moment feels precious because we know we won't have an infinite number of them." Zal Theron made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "I have been alive for 1,800,000 years. Do you know how long that is?" "I can't even imagine it." "Neither can I anymore," Zal Theron said. I have forgotten most of it. The early centuries when everything was new and exciting, the middle millennia when I thought I understood the universe, the recent ages which all blur together into one endless gray nothing. I am tired, Dr. Vance. So very tired. Kira felt her heart break for this ancient being. Have you spoken to anyone about this? There is no one to speak to. My people conquered death. We do not have words for what I feel. According to our medicine, I should not feel this way at all. My body is perfect. My brain is functioning optimally. There is no medical reason for this exhaustion. It's not medical, Kira said gently. It's existential. You're experiencing what my people call despair. And how do your people cure despair? Kira hesitated. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just help people be comfortable while they feel it. And sometimes, when life has truly run its course, we help them let go. Zaltheron turned to her fully. You mean die? Yes. That is illegal in the Concordat. Consciousness termination is the highest crime. To end a life is to destroy something that can never be replaced. Even if that life wants to end? Zaltheron was quiet for a long time. Then it said, I want to end, Dr. Vance. I have wanted it for 10,000 years, but my body will not let me. The station will not let me. The law will not let me. I am trapped in an existence that has lost all meaning, and I will be trapped in it forever. Kira made a decision that would change everything. What if I could help you? Over the next 2 weeks, working in secret, Kira taught Zaltheron about palliative care. She explained how humans helped each other die with dignity. She showed the Aetherin how to slowly shut down the medical systems that kept forcing its body to repair and regenerate. She sat with Zaltheron as the ancient being's life signs gradually, peacefully declined. On the last day, Zaltheron took Kira's hand with one of its 4 hands. The grip was weak but warm. Thank you, it whispered. For 1 million years I searched for meaning. I found it in these final moments with you. Only death gives meaning to life. Your species still knows this truth. Do not let them take it from you. Then Zaltheron closed its eyes and stopped breathing. The monitors went silent. For the first time in the history of the medical station, something had died within its walls. Kira sat with the body for an hour, tears running down her face. She had helped save this being from an eternity of suffering. She had done the right thing. The door burst open. 6 Aetherin security officers rushed in, their expressions a mix of shock and horror. Dr. Kira Vance, one of them said, you are under arrest for consciousness termination. You have committed the worst crime known to the Concordat. Kira stood up slowly. She did not resist as they placed restraints on her wrists. As they led her away, she looked back at Zaltheron's peaceful face one last time. She had come here to learn how to save humanity from death. Instead, she had learned something far more important, and that knowledge would either doom her or save everything. The holding cell was white and empty. Kira sat on the smooth floor and waited. They had taken her bag, her equipment, even her shoes. She wore only a thin gray uniform that all prisoners received. Through the transparent wall, she could see guards walking past, their faces showing disgust when they looked at her. She had been in the cell for 3 days when they finally came for her. 2 Kryn officers escorted her down long corridors. The Kryn looked almost human, except for their metallic silver skin and the fact that their consciousness could transfer between bodies. These 2 had probably lived for millions of years, jumping from one artificial body to another whenever the old one wore out. They brought her to the halls of eternal judgment, a massive chamber with a ceiling so high she couldn't see the top. At the center sat the Council of Perpetuals, 12 beings from the oldest species in the galaxy. They sat on platforms that floated in the air, looking down at her. Dr. Kira Vance, said the council speaker, a Valkyrie whose body shimmered like living crystal. You stand accused of consciousness termination. How do you answer? Kira's voice was steady. I helped someone who wanted to die. That's not murder. That's mercy. A sound rippled through the chamber. It took Kira a moment to realize it was shock. The council members looked at each other with expressions she couldn't read. Mercy? The speaker said. You speak of ending consciousness as if it were a kindness. Life is sacred. Existence is the highest good. What you did was an abomination. To you, maybe, Kira said, but Physician Prime Zaltharon had lived for almost 2 million years. It was tired. It was suffering. Who are you to force it to continue existing against its will? A council member from the Atheran delegation spoke up. Its voice was cold. Zaltharon was experiencing a temporary malfunction in its emotional processing. We would have corrected it. Instead, you destroyed a consciousness that had accumulated nearly 2 million years of knowledge and experience. That knowledge is now gone forever. That knowledge wanted to be gone, Kira shot back. You talk about consciousness like it's a thing to be preserved, like a book in a library. But consciousness has desires. It has will, and Zaltharon's will was to end. I honored that will. The trial continued for hours. The council brought forward expert after expert, all testifying about the crime Kira had committed. They showed simulations of how they could have fixed Zaltharon's condition. They presented laws that had stood for millions of years, all stating that consciousness termination was the ultimate evil. Finally, the speaker gave Kira a chance to defend herself fully. Kira stood in the center of the chamber and took a deep breath. I want to tell you about my species, she began. Humans live for maybe 100 years if we're lucky. Right now, because of the fading, we're dying even faster. We know from the moment we're born that we will die. Every human carries this knowledge with them their whole lives. She paused, making sure they were listening. You might think this makes us sad or afraid all the time, and sometimes it does. But it also makes us treasure every moment we have. We create art because we know we won't be around forever to make more. We tell stories because we want to leave something behind. We love deeply because we know that love won't last forever. Death gives our lives shape and meaning. Primitive thinking, one council member muttered. Maybe, Kira said. But let me ask you something. When was the last time any of your species created something truly new? When did you last explore an unknown region of space? When did you last feel genuine excitement about anything? The silence that followed told her everything. You've been alive so long that nothing matters anymore, Kira continued. You have forever, so why hurry? Why try anything risky? Why feel anything deeply? You've become so focused on preserving consciousness that you've forgotten what consciousness is for. You exist, but you don't live. This is outrageous, the Atheran council member said. We have achieved what every species dreams of. We have conquered death itself. And what did you lose in the process? Kira asked quietly. Before anyone could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. The council members looked confused, then alarmed. An aide rushed to the speaker and whispered something urgent. The speaker's crystal body flickered. We must adjourn. There is an emergency. What kind of emergency? Kira asked. The speaker hesitated, then said, The fading. It has accelerated. Humans throughout the Concordat are dying at 3 times the previous rate. We have days, not months, to find a cure. They took Kira back to her cell, but this time a scientist came with her. Her name was Sela, a young Atheran who had only lived for 50,000 years. I need your help, Sela said as soon as they were alone. The council's best researchers are working on the fading, but nothing works. Every treatment we try makes it worse. Why come to me? Kira asked. I'm just a criminal. Because you understand death, Sela said. "And I think the fading isn't a disease at all. I think it's something else, but I need you to explain it to me." Kira sat down and thought carefully. "Tell me exactly what happens when you try to cure it." Sela pulled up holographic displays showing the research. "We've tried cellular regeneration therapy, consciousness backup protocols, even quantum state stabilization. Every treatment stops the fading temporarily, but then the patients deteriorate even faster. It's like their bodies are rejecting the cure itself." Something clicked in Kira's mind. "What do all your treatments have in common?" "They're all designed to prevent death and extend life indefinitely." "Exactly," Kira said, her excitement growing. "What if human biology is rejecting immortality itself? What if our cells are treating your life extension technology as a foreign invader?" Sela's eyes widened. "The immortality field. Every concordate station and world emits a background field that supports our citizens' biological immortality. It's everywhere. And it's killing us," Kira finished. "Human biology evolved to die. When you force it to be immortal, it fights back. The fading isn't a disease. It's our bodies trying to protect themselves from living forever." Sela worked furiously on her computer for several minutes. Then she looked up, her face pale. "You're right. In areas with lower immortality field exposure, the fading is slower. In areas with higher exposure, it's faster. We've been trying to cure you with the very thing that's making you sick." "So what's the solution?" Kira asked. "Isolation," Sela said quietly. "Humans would have to live in areas with no immortality field. Mortality zones. Places where death is possible again. That means we can never truly integrate with the concordate. No, it means you'll always be separate. Always dying while the rest of the galaxy lives forever." Kira felt the weight of this knowledge settle on her. She had found the cure, but the price was isolation. Humanity would survive, but they would always be the mortal ones, the brief candles in a universe of eternal flames. The next day, the council reconvened. Sela presented their findings. The council members listened in stunned silence. "We must create mortality zones immediately," the speaker declared. "Humanity will be preserved." Then the speaker turned to Kira. "You are guilty of consciousness termination. Under normal circumstances, you would be imprisoned for eternity. However, you have also saved your species. Therefore, we offer you a choice. Accept imprisonment or accept a different sentence. Teach us about death. Help us understand this force you claim gives life meaning. Become the Concordate's first professor of mortality studies." Kira looked at the council, at these beings who had lived for millions of years, but had forgotten how to truly live. She thought about Zaltharon's final words. She thought about all the humans who would live because of what she had discovered. "I'll teach you," she said, "but not because you ordered it. I'll teach you because you need to learn, and maybe, just maybe, we mortal humans have something to offer you immortals after all." Research Station. Persephone floated at the edge of human space, far from the immortality fields that covered the rest of the Concordate. Kira stood in what would become her classroom and looked at the empty chairs. Tomorrow, the galaxy's greatest minds would sit in those chairs and learn about something their civilizations had spent millions of years trying to forget: death. She had 3 months to prepare the mortality zones for humanity's evacuation. Thousands of human colonies were being moved to areas without immortality fields. It was working. The fading had slowed and then stopped. Humans were dying at normal rates again, living their normal lifespans. They were saved. But Kira had another job now: teacher. The first students arrived on a cold morning. 12 beings from 6 different species, all volunteers. They filed into the classroom silently, looking at Kira with a mixture of curiosity and fear. "Welcome," Kira said, "to the first class in mortality studies. I know most of you are here because your government sent you. They want to understand death so they can continue avoiding it. But I'm going to teach you something different. I'm going to teach you why death matters." A Kryn student raised its hand. "How can something that destroys consciousness matter? Death is the end of everything we are." "Is it?" Kira asked. She pulled up images on the screen behind her. "These are humans who lived and died before we joined the Concordat. This woman wrote music that still makes people cry 300 years after her death. This man discovered a cure for a disease that saved millions. This child drew a picture that hangs in a museum. They're all dead, but their actions echo forward in time. Death didn't end what they were. It completed it." Over the weeks, Kira taught them about grief, about legacy, about the urgency that mortality creates. She showed them human literature, plays, and poetry, all created by beings who knew their time was limited. She explained palliative care, the human art of making death comfortable and dignified. The students were changing. She could see it in the way they moved, talked, and asked questions. They were starting to feel things they hadn't felt in thousands of years. Time pressure, urgency, meaning. Sela, who had joined as a student, approached Kira after class one day. "I have been alive for 50,000 years, she said quietly. "In all that time, I never created anything. I never had to. I always had more time. But yesterday I wrote a poem. It wasn't very good, but it was mine. And I wrote it because your class made me realize that even though I might live forever, this specific moment won't come again." Kira smiled. "That's beautiful, Sela." But not everyone was happy with what Kira was teaching. News of the Mortality Studies program spread through the Concordat, and reactions were mixed. Some found it fascinating, others found it disturbing, and some found it dangerous. Late one night, Kira received an urgent message. A Velkari diplomat wanted to speak with her privately. She agreed to meet in one of the station's empty observation rooms. The diplomat arrived alone, its crystal body dim in the low light. "Dr. Vance, I need your help." "What kind of help?" "I want to die." Kira felt her heart skip. "I can't help you with that. I was nearly imprisoned for helping Zaltharan. If I do it again, please," the diplomat said, and its voice cracked. "I have been alive for 3 million years. I have served on the council, governed entire star systems, and accumulated more knowledge than a human library. And I am so tired. Every day is the same. Every conversation I have had 1,000,000 times before. I am not living anymore. I am just existing, endlessly existing." Kira looked at this ancient being and saw the same pain she had seen in Zaltharan. "Why come to me?" "Because you are the only one who knows how. In secret, others have come to you too. I have heard the whispers. The Death Girl, they call you. The only being in the galaxy who knows how to help us end." It was true. Over the past month, 7 immortal beings had come to Kira in secret, all asking for the same thing. She had helped them, teaching them how to shut down their immortality systems, how to let their bodies finally rest. Each time, she swore them to secrecy. Each time, she feared being discovered. "If I help you," Kira said, "you can't tell anyone. The council would—" "The council already suspects," the diplomat said. "Why do you think you're out here, at the edge of space? They want you far away where you can't influence their citizens. But it's too late. The idea is already spreading. Immortals are starting to question whether endless life is truly living." Kira helped the diplomat. She sat with the ancient being as its consciousness slowly faded. Its last words were, "Thank you for giving my existence an ending. Now it means something." But someone had been watching. The news broke 3 days later. A Concordat security team arrived at the station with arrest warrants. But before they could reach Kira, something unexpected happened. Her students blocked the door. "You can't take her," Sela said, standing at the front of the group. "She's teaching us things we need to learn." She's helping people commit consciousness termination, the security chief said. That's illegal. Those people wanted to die, another student said. She gave them choice. When did choice become a crime? The standoff lasted hours. More students arrived, then other faculty members, then random concordate citizens who had heard about what was happening. They formed a barrier around Kira, protecting her. The security chief finally called for backup, but before it arrived, an even bigger problem emerged. The fading had returned. Not in humans this time, but in a group called the Ascended. The Ascended were humans who had rejected mortality zones. They had forced themselves into concordate immortality treatments, determined to live forever like the elder races. At first it worked. They stopped aging. Their cells regenerated perfectly. But then something went wrong. Kira received the medical reports and felt sick. The Ascended were losing something fundamental. Their creativity was dying. Their passion was fading. Their memories were becoming confused. They were turning into the same kind of hollow beings she saw in the oldest immortals. It's the same thing, she told Sela as they reviewed the data. Human consciousness is linked to mortality. Our brains evolved to work within a limited time span. When you remove that limit, something breaks. We're not built for immortality. It's not just our bodies that reject it. It's our minds. She tried to help the Ascended, but many refused to return to mortality. They had tasted forever and didn't want to give it up, even as they slowly lost themselves. One of them, a woman named Dr. Chen, who had been Kira's colleague, came to see her. Chen looked young, physically perfect, but her eyes were empty. I can't feel anything anymore, Chen said flatly. I look at a sunset, and it's just light and color. I talk to people, and it's just sounds. Everything is distant, like I'm watching my life from far away. Come back to the mortality zones, Kira pleaded. It might not be too late to reverse this. And die in 70 years? No. I'd rather be numb forever than dead. Kira watched Chen leave and realized the horrible truth. Immortality wasn't just impossible for humans. It was a trap. A beautiful, terrible trap that promised everything and delivered emptiness. That night, another immortal came to her in secret. Then another. Then another. Word had spread through the galaxy. The Death Girl could help you end. She could give your existence meaning by giving it a conclusion. Kira looked at the line of ancient beings outside her door, all seeking the same thing, and realized that she had started something that couldn't be stopped. A movement, a revolution, the right to die, and the concordate leadership was terrified. Their entire civilization was built on the conquest of death. If death became desirable, if immortals started choosing to end, everything they had built for millions of years would collapse. They declared Kira an existential threat. Not a criminal anymore, but something worse. A danger to the very foundation of their society. The order came through official channels. Kira was to be taken into permanent custody. Not killed. They still didn't believe in killing, but imprisoned forever in a place where she could never teach, never help anyone die, never spread her dangerous ideas. And as punishment, they would make her immortal, force her to live forever, unable to die, experiencing the same endless existence she had been helping others escape. Sela brought Kira the news with tears running down her face. They're coming for you tomorrow, a full military unit. I'm sorry. We tried to stop them, but the council has made its decision. Kira sat down heavily. After everything, this was how it would end. Trapped forever, unable to die, punished with the very thing she had been fighting against. Then her communicator buzzed. It was a message from Earth, from the human government. It said only 3 words. We're coming. Hide. Kira had 12 hours before the concordate military arrived. Sela and her students helped her pack what little she could carry. Research notes, medical data, and the recorded final words of every being she had helped die. Those words were precious. a library of completed lives. "Where will you go?" Sela asked. "I don't know. Somewhere they can't find me." "They can find anyone. The Concordat has eyes everywhere in the galaxy." Kira looked at her friend. "Then I guess I won't hide in the galaxy." Before Sela could ask what that meant, alarms blared throughout the station. But these weren't Concordat alarms. They were proximity warnings. Ships were approaching, dozens of them. Human ships. Kira ran to the observation deck and stared in disbelief. A fleet of small, fast vessels was surrounding the station. They weren't military ships. They were civilian craft, cargo haulers, personal transports, even old colony ships. Humans from across the mortality zones had come, somehow organizing in secret, somehow arriving at exactly the right time. Her communicator buzzed. "Dr. Vance, this is Captain Okonkwo of the transport ship Mortal Coil. We're here to get you out." "How did you know?" "Word travels fast among humans. We heard what the Concordat plans to do to you. They want to make you live forever as punishment. We're not going to let that happen." Kira felt tears streaming down her face. "The Concordat will see this as an act of war." "Let them. You saved our species. Now we're saving you." The evacuation was chaotic, but efficient. Humans moved with an urgency the immortal Concordat could never match. They knew time was limited. They knew every second mattered. Within 2 hours, Kira and all her students who wanted to leave were aboard the ships. Sela came too, along with 40 other immortals who had been studying mortality. They were ready to leave behind their eternal society for something new. The Concordat military arrived just as the human fleet was preparing to jump to faster-than-light speed. A massive warship, sleek and terrible, positioned itself to block their escape. "Human vessels, you are harboring a fugitive," the warship's commander announced. "Surrender Dr. Kira Vance immediately or face consequences." Captain Okonkwo's response was broadcast on all channels. "Commander, with respect, Dr. Vance is a human citizen who has committed no crime under human law. She helped beings who wanted to die. We call that compassion. If you want to arrest someone for compassion, you'll have to go through all of us." The standoff lasted minutes that felt like hours. The Concordat warship could destroy the human fleet easily. Everyone knew it. But everyone also knew what it would mean. The first time in millions of years that the Concordat had killed someone. Hundreds of someones. The commander's voice came back, quieter now. "You don't understand what you're protecting. She's spreading dangerous ideas. She's making immortals want to die." "Maybe those immortals have the right to want that," Kira said, taking over the communication. "Maybe choice matters more than endless existence. Maybe you're so afraid of death that you've forgotten how to respect life." There was a long silence. Then the warship moved aside. "I'm letting you go," the commander said. "Not because I agree with you, but because I've lived for 800,000 years and I've never seen anyone care about something enough to die for it. Maybe that's worth preserving." The human fleet jumped away, leaving Concordat space behind. They traveled for weeks, moving deeper into unexplored space. Finally, they found what they were looking for. A region far from any immortality fields, far from Concordat patrols. A place where humans and reformed immortals could live together. They called it free mortal space. Kira helped establish the first colony on a planet they named Thanatos. It was a beautiful world, green and blue, with breathable air and flowing water. More importantly, it was a place where death was natural again, where beings could choose how long they wanted to live. The colony grew quickly. Humans arrived from the mortality zones, wanting to be part of this new society. And surprisingly, immortals came too. Thousands of them, then tens of thousands. Beings who had lived for millions of years but had lost the ability to truly live. They came seeking something they had forgotten. An ending, a purpose, a life that mattered because it wouldn't last forever. Kira established the Mortality Compact, a simple set of principles. Everyone had the right to choose whether to be mortal or immortal. No one would be forced to live forever. No one would be forced to die. And most importantly, immortals who chose to live in free mortal space had to spend time among the mortal, learning from them, being changed by them. She continued teaching, but now her classroom was open to everyone. She taught humans who wanted to understand death before choosing immortality. She taught immortals who wanted to learn how to die with grace. She taught young and old, mortal and eternal, all seeking the same thing: understanding. One day, a Kryn named Velkan came to her class. He had lived for 2.3 million years and had just made the journey from Concordate space. "I heard you could teach me how to die," he said. "I can teach you about death," Kira corrected. "What you do with that knowledge is your choice." Velkan stayed for 6 months, learning and questioning and slowly changing. At the end, he made his decision. "I want to experience mortality," he said. "Not forever, but for a while. I want to live knowing that my time is limited. I want to feel what it's like to have urgency again." Kira helped him design a treatment that would make him mortal for 100 years. After that, he could choose to become immortal again if he wanted, or he could choose to die. "Thank you," Velkan said. "For the first time in 2 million years, I feel excited about tomorrow, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed anymore." But the Concordate wasn't ready to accept what was happening. The Council watched as thousands of their citizens left for free mortal space. They watched as the Mortality Compact spread its ideas through their civilizations. They watched as immortals started questioning everything their societies were built on, and they were afraid. The Council sent envoys to negotiate. They offered Kira a full pardon if she would return and stop teaching. She refused. They offered to make free mortal space an official Concordat territory with special status. She refused that too. "We're not asking for your permission to exist," she told the envoys. "We're not asking for your approval. We're simply claiming the right to choose. The right to be mortal if we want to be. The right to die when we're ready. Those aren't privileges you can grant. They're fundamental rights." The Council's response was to send an ultimatum. Close free mortal space voluntarily or face military action. They set a deadline of 30 days. The humans and reformed immortals prepared for war. They had no real military, just civilian ships and determination. Against the Concordate's ancient warships and millions of years of accumulated weapons technology, they stood no chance. "We can't win," Captain Okonkwo said at the strategy meeting. "We don't have to win," Kira replied. "We just have to make them understand that we won't give up, that we'd rather die free than live forever as prisoners." But Selah had another idea. "What if we don't fight them? What if we invite them?" "Invite them to what?" Kira asked. "To see what we've built here. To see immortals and mortals living together. To see beings who have lived for millions of years finally finding purpose again. Let them see what they're about to destroy." It was risky, but they had nothing to lose. They sent an open invitation to the Concordate Council. "Come to free mortal space. See for yourself what we've created. Then decide if you want to destroy it." To everyone's surprise, the Council accepted. The Council members arrived in a massive diplomatic ship. 12 beings who had lived longer than most stars, coming to see a colony that was barely a year old. Kira met them at the landing site. "Welcome to Thanatos. Welcome to free mortal space." The speaker's crystal body reflected the planet's twin suns. "We are here to witness what you have built before we decide whether to permit it to continue existing." "Then let me show you," Kira said. She took them through the colony. She showed them humans and immortals working together, learning from each other. She showed them art being created by beings who finally felt urgency again. She showed them immortals who had chosen to be mortal for a while, experiencing life with new intensity. And she showed them the memorial garden. It was a quiet place filled with growing things. Each plant represented someone who had lived and died in free mortal space. Immortals who had finally found peace. Humans who had lived full lives and passed on naturally. Each plant had a plaque with the deceased's name and their final words. The council members walked through the garden in silence, reading the plaques. Only death gives meaning to life. I lived well because I knew I would die. Thank you for letting me choose my own ending. I was afraid of death for 1,000,000 years. Now I understand it was the fear that was killing me, not death itself. The speaker stopped at one plaque and stood there for a long time. It was Zaltheron's. The Etheran Kira had helped die, the one who had started everything. I knew Zaltheron, the speaker said quietly. We studied together when we were young, barely 100,000 years old. I thought it was suffering from a malfunction. I never considered that it might have simply lived long enough. Kira stood beside the speaker. How long have you been alive? 4,000,000 years. Are you tired? The speaker was quiet for a long moment. Then it said, every day. The council stayed on Thanatos for 7 days. They attended Kira's classes. They spoke with immortals who had chosen mortality. They sat with humans who explained what it meant to live knowing death was coming. And slowly, something shifted. On the 7th day, the council gathered in the central plaza. Beings from all over the colony came to hear what they would decide. Kira stood at the front, her heart pounding. Everything she had built could end today. The speaker rose to address the crowd. We came here prepared to shut down free mortal space. We came believing that what you were doing was dangerous to the stability of the Concordat. We came to protect our way of life. Kira held her breath. We were wrong, the speaker continued. Or rather, we were incomplete. We have spent millions of years conquering death, believing it was the ultimate enemy. But in doing so, we forgot something essential. We forgot how to live with purpose. We forgot what it means to have our actions matter. We forgot that choice is more sacred than existence. A murmur went through the crowd. However, the speaker said, we cannot simply accept free mortal space as it is. The Concordat has laws and principles that have maintained peace for millions of years. We cannot abandon them without consequences. Kira felt her hopes falling. They were going to shut them down after all, but the speaker surprised her. Therefore, we propose something different. Not war, not surrender, but integration. We propose the Dual Life Accords. The speaker displayed a holographic document that appeared in the air above them. Under these accords, every being in the galaxy, regardless of species, would have the right to choose mortality or immortality, the right to change their mind, the right to live one way for a time and then choose another, but with one requirement. What requirement? Kira asked. That those who choose immortality must spend time among the mortal, learning from them, and those who are mortal must have their knowledge and experiences preserved for future generations. The immortal and mortal must learn from each other, help each other, and understand each other. Kira read through the accords carefully. They weren't perfect, but they were far more than she had dared hope for. What about the Concordat's laws against consciousness termination? Those laws will be revised, the speaker said. Helping someone who truly wishes to die will no longer be a crime. It will be recognized as a sacred duty, performed only by trained individuals who understand the weight of what they're doing. We propose calling these individuals thanatological guides. And free mortal space will become the first official dual life zone where both mortals and immortals can live freely. Other zones will be established throughout the Concordat. Borders will open, choice will be honored. It sounded too good to be true. Kira looked at the speaker suspiciously. Why? Why this change of heart? The speaker's crystal body dimmed slightly. Because I read Zaltharon's plaque and realized I felt the same way. Because half of the council admitted they were tired too. Because in 7 days here, I have seen more genuine joy, more creativity, more purpose than I've seen in the Concordat in 10,000 years. You mortals have something we lost. And maybe, instead of fearing it, we should learn from it. The vote to accept the dual life accords was unanimous. Over the next months, the transformation began. Mortality zones expanded. Immortals started coming to learn about death. Humans were given the option to choose immortality with full knowledge of what it would cost them. Some humans chose eternal life. Some chose to remain mortal. Most chose something in between, living mortal lives and then deciding at the end whether to continue or rest. The immortal species began to change too. The Atheran started creating art again for the first time in hundreds of thousands of years. The Kryn began exploring unknown space. The Velkari held debates about topics they hadn't discussed in millennia. Slowly, painfully, the ancient civilizations began to wake up. Kira became the Concordat's first thanatological ambassador, teaching death studies across dozens of worlds. Everywhere she went, she trained new guides who would help beings die with dignity when they were ready. But not everyone accepted the changes. A faction of immortals, calling themselves the Eternal Purists, rejected the dual life accords. They saw mortality as a disease that needed to be eliminated, not embraced. The Purists tried to sabotage mortality zones. They spread propaganda claiming that Kira was a death cult leader. They even attempted to assassinate her, though they failed because they had forgotten how to kill after millions of years of not needing to. The conflict came to a head when the Purists seized control of an old Concordat military station and threatened to destroy any ship traveling to or from free mortal space. Kira flew there personally to negotiate. The Purist leader was an ancient Kryn named Eternal Mind Vaktor, who had lived for 5.7 million years. It met Kira in the station's command center, surrounded by heavily armed guards. "You have poisoned the galaxy with your death worship," Vaktor said. "Because of you, thousands of beings have ended themselves. Knowledge that took millions of years to accumulate, lost forever." "They chose to end," Kira said calmly, "and their knowledge wasn't lost. We preserve it, share it, honor it. Death doesn't erase a life, it completes it." "Lies. Death is oblivion. It is the end of everything. We conquered it for a reason." "Did you?" Kira asked. "Or did it conquer you? You've been alive for almost 6 million years, Vaktor. Tell me honestly, when was the last time you felt truly alive?" Vaktor's metallic face showed no expression. "I feel nothing. I haven't felt anything in 3 million years. Emotions faded. Passions dimmed. I exist in a gray fog of eternal consciousness, unable to die, unable to truly live, and it's your fault for showing us what we lost." "No," Kira said gently. "You lost it long before I came along. I just showed you that it doesn't have to be this way. You can feel again. You can have purpose again. But only if you're willing to accept that everything ends eventually. I will never accept death. Then you'll never accept life either." Vaktor was silent for a long moment. Then it said, "I want you to know something. I hate you. I hate what you represent. I hate that you made me question millions of years of certainty. I hate that you made me feel again when I had successfully numbed myself to feeling." Kira waited. "But I also envy you," Vaktor continued. "You will die someday. Your existence will end. And because of that, every moment you live means something. I don't remember the last time a moment meant anything to me." "It's not too late," Kira said. "You can choose differently." "No, I've lived too long." I've seen too much. Death terrifies me more than this empty existence. I would rather be numb forever than face oblivion. Then that's your choice. I respect it. But you have to respect others' choices too. Let them choose mortality if they want it. Let them choose meaning over eternity. Vaktor lowered the station's weapons. Fine. But understand this. The purists will never accept your dual life accords. We will always oppose you. That's okay, Kira said. Opposition means you care about something. That's more alive than you've been in millennia. The standoff ended peacefully. The purists remained, a vocal minority opposing the changes, but they no longer used violence. They argued, debated, and challenged. And slowly, some of them changed their minds. 5 years after the dual life accords were signed, Kira was invited to address the entire Concordat Council. She stood in the halls of eternal judgment once again, but this time as an honored guest, not a criminal. 5 years ago, I stood here accused of consciousness termination, she began. Today, I stand here as proof that death and life aren't enemies. They're partners. Each gives meaning to the other. She showed them statistics. Concordat species were creating more art than they had in 1,000,000 years. Exploration had resumed. Scientific discoveries were accelerating. Birth rates among immortals had increased as beings who found new purpose decided to have children again. We're not trying to make everyone mortal, Kira continued. We're trying to give everyone choice. The choice to live forever. The choice to die when ready. The choice to switch between mortality and immortality as life demands. Because choice, real choice, is what makes existence meaningful. The council listened. Even the purist representatives were quiet. I have one final thing to share, Kira said. She displayed a message that had been transmitted from a distant colony. Yesterday, an Etheran named Selvath became the first member of their species to choose death in 2 million years. They lived for 1.2 million years, experienced everything they wanted to experience, and then decided to end peacefully. Their final words were recorded. The message played. Selvath's voice was weak but content. I lived well. I loved deeply. I learned constantly. And now, I'm ready to rest. Thank you, Dr. Vance, for teaching the galaxy that life needs endings to have beginnings. That consciousness needs conclusion to have meaning. I am not afraid. I am grateful. There was silence in the chamber. Then the speaker rose. Dr. Vance, on behalf of the Concordat Council, I offer you something that has never been offered to anyone before. The gift of eternity. You will be made immortal, your consciousness preserved forever, so that you can continue teaching the galaxy about death for millions of years to come. It was an incredible honor. Kira stood there knowing that this was what she had fought for, the right to choose, and now she had to make her own choice. She thought about all she had learned, about Zaltharon's tired eyes, about Velkan's excitement when he became mortal, about Selvath's peaceful ending, about every being she had helped die with dignity. Thank you, she said quietly. But I decline. The council members looked shocked. I'm human, Kira continued. Mortality is part of what I am. If I became immortal, I would eventually become like the beings I've been trying to help, empty, numb, lost. My power to teach comes from the fact that I'm dying too. Every lesson I give, every life I help end, every moment I spend teaching is precious because I know I don't have forever. You would choose death over eternity? The speaker asked. I would choose a meaningful life over a meaningless eternity. I'll live my human lifespan, maybe 80 or 90 years if I'm lucky, and then I'll die, having done what I was meant to do. Someone else can carry on my work. Someone mortal, who understands urgency and meaning and the beauty of endings. But your knowledge, your experience, will be preserved, Kira finished. In the students I teach, in the books I write. In the thanatological archive I'm establishing, where every being who chooses death can record their final words and wisdom. I don't need to live forever. I just need to live well. The speaker was quiet for a long time. Then it said something Kira never expected. You have taught me more in 5 years than I learned in 4 million. Very well. Live your mortal life, Dr. Vance. And when you're ready to die, I hope you'll allow me to be there, so I can learn from you one final time. I would be honored, Kira said. 37 years later, Kira lay in a hospital bed in free mortal space. She was 89 years old, and her body was finally giving out. Not from the fading, but from natural old age. She had lived a full life, taught thousands of students, and helped hundreds of beings die peacefully. The room was filled with people, her students, her friends, humans and immortals alike, all there to be with her at the end. The speaker was there too, its crystal body dim with something that might have been grief. "Are you afraid?" it asked. Kira smiled. "No, I'm grateful. I lived well. I loved people. I made a difference. What more could I ask for? To live forever, to see what comes next. What comes next is for the next generation to discover. I've had my time. It was beautiful." Her breathing slowed. Selah held one hand. Captain Okonkwo held the other. The speaker stood at the foot of the bed, witnessing. "Tell me," Kira whispered, "have you decided? Will you choose mortality someday?" The speaker's voice was soft. "Perhaps. Not now. I'm not ready. But someday. When I've done what I need to do, I think I'll come back here, and I'll ask someone to help me die the way you helped Zaltharon, the way you've helped so many others." "Good," Kira said. "That's good." Her eyes closed. Her breathing stopped. The monitors went quiet. The Death Girl had died, but her legacy lived on, in the dual life accords, in the thanatological archive, in the millions of beings across the galaxy who now had the right to choose, in the knowledge that death wasn't the enemy, but the completion of life. They called her the Death Girl, because even death waited for her permission. And in the end, she gave it willingly, peacefully, showing the galaxy one final lesson, that the choice to end was as sacred as the choice to begin, and that a life well lived needed no eternity to prove its worth.